Can they find the name of the co-stars in that movie?
Holly Hunter.
I know Holly Hunter. I know
Would
Zoe.
you do a printout?
It's Zoe Kazan, and okay, I got it. I want to make sure I'm prepared.
Well, Ray, we just recently did a Emmy spotlight article about you and vinyl. We really feel like this might be your opportunity to return to the Emmy Awards this year.
Well, I appreciate it, but I thank you. I'll believe it when I see it, but I'm just happy to be in the game. But thank you.
You've been ramping up the last couple of projects on TV, at least Men of a Certain Age and then Parenthood, really developing your dramatic chops. What appealed about Zach to you that made you want to play him?
Well, first of all, the script itself, the pilot was just, I thought was so interesting and so different. Scorsese was directing it. Terry Winter was involved. So it just had this great group of people. The character, he's a bit tragic. He's a bit damaged and flawed, and you don't see much of that in the pilot. But there's actually a scene that they cut out of the pilot script. Had a scene where he and Richie fight because Richie decides not to sell the company. That actually ended up being in the second episode. But in the pilot, I read that script, and I could just see that this guy was, he was struggling to be something and to make something of himself, and that appeals to me. He's, anytime there's a guy who just has some inner angst, I identify with it.
Well, I think most actors look for those flaws or those struggles within a character. That really appeals to them.
Yeah. Anytime. Well, because everybody has that. Everybody has something going on inside, and they can tap into it and bring part of themselves into that role. And that's what I saw with this guy. I saw it's a different character. It's a different type of show, but I kind of felt like I know who this guy is.
If somebody hadn't seen Vinyl yet and you were trying to describe this character, what would you tell them? How would you describe him?
Well, he's in the music business. So he's in a business where things are a little bit dicey, a little bit underhanded. It's a little immoral, but I think this guy has an underneath everything. He's a good guy, and he just wants to prove to himself that he has a talent, that he has what it takes to make it in this business. And I think he's struggling because there's an inner voice that kind of knows that maybe he doesn't, and he's been suppressing that. So he's just trying to stay afloat in this business and prove to himself that he's somebody in this world. And he's working with a guy, Bobby Cannavale, who's the epitome of the music guy, of the rock and roll guy. He has the great ear, and he's trying to stay on a par with him and be his equal. And I think he's struggling that he knows he's not, but he doesn't want to accept it. And it's just this battle. There's a bit of a tragicness to this character, but there's also something you feel for him, because deep down he just wants to validate himself. That's the way I look at it. I may be I may be looking into it too much and giving it a little bit more deepness than he's just a schmuck. But that's what I'm going with.
Well, you talked about Bobby. You have a lot of scenes with him, obviously. What's he like to work with?
He's great. I never met him before. And, he's this New Yorkie, he's like a stud. He's got the looks. He's got the voice. He's got the bravado. I keep waiting for him to somehow disappoint me as a person, and he never does. He's the nicest guy. He's the sweetest guy. It's a great combination, because it's like a tough guy who just is just such a great person to be around, and he's New York, and we go to the Jet game, we go to this, but he's also a theater guy, and he's also artsy, and he knows all the about the museums and this and that. But then it's a little bit like I kind of equate him a little bit to Peter Boyle, except Peter Boyle wasn't, although he was a bit of a ladies' man, but not the kind that Bobby is, but Bobby is an intellectual who can dumb it down for guys like me, when he's hanging with me. And you don't feel like he's condescending or anything. He just feels real. So we got along great. We went to Jet games. We went to pizza. We went to we went out. He came to the comedy club. He watched me perform. We became buddies, and in the show, that's how they are. Except right now, like it does happen in with friends, they're at a bad place right now. Yeah.
Back when you were doing early stand-up and getting started, did you ever imagine a day you would be directed by Martin Scorsese?
No. The answer is no. The answer is without hesitation. I still don't believe it. It's crazy. I have a list of surreal things that I've done in my career, and I keep wondering which one's number one. And this one's battling with it. I got to be on Johnny Carson. I never would have dreamed of that as a stand-up. Right before he retired, I got to say 4 months before he retired, I did my spot on Johnny Carson. I got to host Saturday Night Live. I grew up on Saturday Night Live. I was 18 years old when it started, and we would stay home on a Saturday and watch. I know I've read the book twice for me to be on that. And this ranks right up there. The fact that, Scorsese, I mean, especially coming from this doesn't matter, but, I have all my Italian relatives who can't believe they just want to touch me now. So yeah, to be in that, and it was intimidating and frightening, but he, when I met him, he made you feel very comfortable. He made you feel, it was a very collaborative thing. He wanted you to improvise. We would rehearse, and I would say something, and he would be like, "You do that? Can you do that? Can you do that?" And when we film it, I'm like, "Yeah, if you want, whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do." But he actually made you feel like it was a group thing, and he's such a genius, and he's such a he would reference these movies that I had no idea of, and he would talk about them. Everything you talked about, every conversation I had with him, he would relate it to a film, an old 50s film from Italy and subtitle, whatever. And then the next day in my dressing room, that DVD would be on my desk. And, I would say to him, after I got about 3 of them, I said, "Hey, thanks so much for those DVDs, And he says, yeah. He goes, did you see them yet? Did you watch? And I go, well, not yet, no. And then I realized I got to watch every one of these so we can talk about it.
You thought he was giving you a movie. He was giving you homework.
Yeah, well, not homework, but he just wanted to share, his enthusiasm for these, for film and for the history of it is unbelievable. But it's just been, it's surreal. It's right up there. It's right up there. It's in the top 3, that's for sure.
Well, this show is set in the 70s. I'm wondering what kind of a guy you were in the 70s and what kind of music you enjoyed.
I listened to all this music. I have it on my iPod now. My wife hates to drive in the car with me because I go right to the 70s. And I was a teenager. So things were happening to me. I was, I wasn't I wasn't one of the slick, cool guys, but I wasn't the nerd. I was right in the middle somewhere and searching for an identity and searching for a girlfriend. And all that stuff happened in the 70s. And the music was so influential and so memorable. I hear the music, I think of that time in my life, these landmark moments in my life, puberty, sex, heartbreak, and that's all in one night. But that's all in the car. So the music was a big part of it. So to be in this show where not only is the music a part of it, there's characters playing these parts. I'm doing a scene with David Bowie. I'm doing there's Led Zeppelin. It's like time travel back into this period of my life that was so magical. It's part of the fun of all this. Yeah.
Well, this Emmy game pretty well. If you get nominated, you're going to have to choose an episode from this season. I don't know what you're thinking, but we had narrowed it down to 2.
Well, don't tell me. Can I try to guess?
Yep.
Try to guess what 2?
All right.
I think 1 is obvious. It's the Vegas episode.
Yep, that's one of them.
That's 1 is obvious. So I was trying to think of if I had to pick an episode. I guess it's the one where I beat up Bobby Cannavale in the elevator.
Well, the second one, Yesterday Once More, the one where you're really, like you said, the pilots aren't introduced all that well, but the second one you really are.
The second episode, you're thinking.
Right.
That's a good one too, yeah, because I'll tell you a little thing about that episode. We did the pilot, and then 9 months later, we got a script for the second episode. And in the pilot, you meet my character, but nothing deep or heavy. He's one of the guys, and he's trying to. He's excited about the sale of the company. In episode 2, 9 months later, I read the script, and I find out I'm married. I didn't even know I was married. In the first episode, I'm on the plane with hookers and whatnot, and now I find out I'm married. I have a kid, and I read this scene where I'm in a car contemplating taking pills and killing myself. And I was like, what? I need some backstory. What's going on? What's with this character? I remember calling my agent up and saying, did you read this script? Did you see how dark it gets so fast for my guy? And I'm like, he goes, that's great. I'm like, I know, but it's like such a test. It's such a, just from an acting standpoint, what's a bigger moment for an actor than when he's contemplating suicide? I go, I hope I can pull it off. And to which my sensitive agent said, you better pull it off. So it was quite interesting to see it go from the pilot to that for my character. But I was grateful that they gave me such good stuff to do. And then of course the Elvis episode has the threesome, which I'm still hearing about it from my wife. My wife is still reminding me, we don't need the money.
Are your kids allowed to watch this show?
Well, my kids are adults now. My youngest is 18, and the good thing about him is he's 18. He doesn't really care what dad's doing right now. But I have 23-year-old twins and my 25-year-old daughter, and they're kind of, I don't want to say they're in the business, but they're very interested in the business, and they read every script. My wife does not read the scripts at all. She just sees it as it comes on. And I remember when we filmed the Vegas episode, one of my twin boys said, Dad, did you do the scene with the hookers? And he put it on a group text, with my family. We have a group text. And my wife was like, whoa, what hookers? I said, well, look, you don't read the script. You'll see it when it comes out. And she saw it when it came out. And I'm still buying jewelry for that episode.
Hey, and a couple more Emmy-related questions. You've got 3 of them there on your shelf at home. Yes. I talked to lots of networks and studios and producers and so forth, and especially when they get into like their second year, third year, and they still haven't gotten any Emmy nominations, or maybe even very few. I always tell them, I always bring up Raymond. I just say, everybody loves Raymond wasn't hit right away at the Emmys. Just hang in there. Maybe maybe it'll catch on soon. What would you tell somebody that was in that second year or third year that's still waiting for that kind of award success?
Well, I mean, of course, the obvious answer is not to worry about the one thing to worry about that we did was the quality of the show. We didn't do anything that just to get an award. We didn't cater any of our show. We didn't write an Emmy episode. We were lucky enough, because there are quality shows out there that don't get recognized for whatever reason. But we were lucky enough that, yeah, you're right. It was about, I think it was the fourth season maybe when we got nominated for show. And then Doris won everything. She won 4, and I think Brad won 3. And I won, I got nominated, I think on my 4th one, I won. I lost the first 3 times. And I remember the night I won because it was, here's the thing. When you're a comedian or known as a comedian, getting nominated for an Emmy is great, but it's also pressure, because I really didn't want to win unless, this is going to sound stupid and not true, but it is, unless I had a good speech that was funny. I was really thinking I'm better off not winning this. That's the pressure of being a comedian, is I have to deliver when I give an acceptance speech. And on that night that I won, I got very lucky because my parents were in the audience, and my parents came every year from New York, from Queens, New York. I would fly them in, and they would stay the week. And I presented at the Emmys before my award was announced. And I told the audience, I said, listen, I've never wanted to win. Getting nominated is fine. But I've promised my parents they can come every year until I win, and they stay a week when they're here. I have to win this one. I go, you don't understand. My parents are like the parents on Everybody Loves Raymond. I really need to win this. And then, I got very lucky and I won. And my parents were in the audience, and as soon as I got to the mic, the first thing I said was, "Mom and Dad, we're going right to the airport."
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a perfect line to say it, and I swear to you, that's more important than winning. Look, when you're a comedian and you live by the laughs, you want to have a good acceptance speech, a funny acceptance speech, funny and real and poignant also. So it was a good night. It was a perfect night. But I've always said, losing the Emmy to get nominated and lose is the best of both worlds for me, because I get nominated. Because look, I'm an actor. I'm a narcissist. I want to get recognition. I get nominated. I get the recognition. But I'm also an insecure comedian who needs pain and suffering. So losing, I get the best of both. I get recognized and I lose. I got all the fuel I need for whatever else, for writing material.
Well, you mentioned Doris Roberts. I definitely wanted to ask you about her today. I met her for the first time I think it was last November. So, I mean, I was so shocked when she passed away. I'm sure you were too. Just tell us something we don't know about her. Well,
I don't know if people know how tireless and how dedicated she was to acting. It just in itself. She was taking acting lessons up till the end. She was 90, by the way. I don't know if you know she was 90 years old. Or as she would say, 80 years old. We never knew her real age. But she was 90, and she was taking acting, and not only that, she has 4 movies coming out this year. She has more movies coming out. I'm alive. I have nothing. But she has 4 movies coming. She was just so, and she was just as generous to other actors. As much as she worked on her own craft, I was a scared little boy when we started, and I didn't know anything, and I was working with her and Peter, and just little things like after a scene, she'd just come over to me in the beginning and just whisper in my ear, "Fabulous, honey, fabulous," like that, in that with that accent, and walk away. And that was just enough to make me feel, like I belonged there with them. And the charities, I hosted a charity with her for years. She got away with playing the character she did, who was so intrusive and overbearing and jealous. She got away with it because the character, it all came from like a love. It all came from this warped love that she had. And in real life, that's what, as good as an actor as she was, she drew on her own feeling, because she just had that love for everything, for people, for life, So it was a very organic role for her to play.
I saw Brad Garrett.
Can you edit that and fix it?
Oh, it was fine.
Okay.
We don't do much editing here.
I know. You saw Brad. What happened?
Oh, I saw him at a Fargo event, I guess about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and asked him about Doris, and he just smiled and called her a broad. He said, in the best possible sense, she was a broad.
Oh yeah, she could drink you under the table. She could work you under the table. Good kisser. Kidding.
We don't want to think about that. One last area I wanted to ask you about, since we saw you a couple of years ago on one of these chats, David Letterman retired. You got to not only honor him at the Kennedy Center honors, but you got to go back one last time just before he ended, and he even let you go back out to your spot on the stage where you first did your first stand-up. Just now that you've had a few months to reflect, what did all that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I got emotional that night because I was reflecting right there what it meant. I mean, he changed my life. Where being on Johnny Carson was kind of the pinnacle for a comedian. After Johnny left, it was Dave, and it came at a time in my life. I was doing stand-up and making a living for 11 years, and the possibilities of going to the next level and getting a TV show had kind of, I felt, slipped by a little. I had done everything. I had done all the shows. I'd done the young comedian specials. I had my chance on News Radio. I don't know if you're familiar, but I was cast in News Radio and the original. I got fired from that. So I was at a point where I was, I'm not going to say I was at a low point, because I was still doing stand-up for a living and I love to do stand-up. But I was at a point where I was realizing this may be where my career levels off, and that's okay. And but I had ambition to try and do other things. And I did one spot on Letterman, and it wasn't that exposed me to people who gave me the opportunity. It was that Dave Letterman gave me the opportunity. He saw me do stand-up because he was sitting at the couch, at the chair, and he offered me a development deal. And a lot of people don't know that David Letterman was his Worldwide Pants produced Everybody Loves Raymond, and they developed Everybody Loves Raymond. And then, of course, with a deal with CBS. So he was, I mean, I'm not sitting here talking to you. I'm not doing a thing for Scorsese. I'm not doing any of that without that opportunity. I mean, a lot of other things had to happen, but it was a big part of my life. And then every year, I did over 35 Letterman spots, I think. And then for that night, for him to be leaving, look, he's still going to do stuff, I'm sure, but it signified the end of this part of my life that was, that just was instrumental in everything that I did in the last 20 years. So, and it also was stand-up. The fact that stand-up got me to where I was, so to go and stand at that spot 20 years later, it just brought back these memories of myself when I was not knowing where my career was going to go, and having this opportunity. And now to look at it in hindsight, and to see where I've come, it was emotional. It was very emotional. And, I hugged Dave, which is a big thing. You don't not many people hug Dave Letterman. Yeah.
It was great. As a fan, I loved seeing you on there, seeing that whole final month as everybody stopped by. It was a great experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. I don't know what I've seen pictures of him now, and he's not shaving. That's for sure.
No, I think he's enjoying life for the moment.
Enjoying himself. Yeah.
As much as he can.
Yeah.
Well,
Sure.
listen, thank you so much. I'm hoping we see you over at the Emmy Awards here in a few months.
Well, I appreciate it, and I've always been a fan of you guys over there, and I'm always checking in to see. I remember when Raymond was on, and I would check in and read the good comments and the bad. Not from you guys.
Right. From the people in the forums. Yeah, I understand, and everybody likes to peek at the predictions.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I hope you're right.
You.
I hope you're right. We done?
Yes, I hit the stop button. Thank you very, very much.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Chris.
Appreciate it.
Right. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. All right.